I want to talk about this Chevy failure here before I get rid of all these parts. So, vehicle originally presents with a water outlet where the tip broke off inside the hose, sprayed all the coolant out. Giant plume of smoke, steam goes all over the exhaust. Vehicle was towed in, written up as coolant loss. Pop the hood, see that this is broken off. Say, okay, let's throw a water outlet in it. No big deal. But there's other things that lead to this. Now, this is actually a symptom and not the cause of the root failure. So you put a outlet on it, you fill it with coolant, start it, run it, fans come on. Okay, good, everything's right. The light's not on the dash because these cars don't have an actual coolant gauge. They have a light that comes on at some ungodly amount of temperature. So you say, okay, it's good. Close the hood, send it out to wash. Car comes back, a day later, maybe even that day, on a hook, overheated, engine seized, rod through the side of the block. You're thinking, well, I don't know what happened there. So what you need to do is you actually have to hook the scan tool up to these things and monitor the temperature data while the thing is running and coming up to temperature. A lot of times what you'll notice is also these bottles will fracture on the bottom like this, and it will spray coolant out onto the radiator hose. You usually think, okay, well, maybe it just came out of the overflow down this trough down the bottom of the bottle, because what you'll see is there'll be coolant all over this bottle. So you think, okay, put a radiator cap, that must have been it, push it down the road. But you actually need to pull these bottles out and look for these fractures. Now, you won't normally see these because they don't open up until they get hot. So you got a whole bunch of fissures here ready to open up. So these are failures on their own, but they're not the root cause. These are symptoms. So what you'll notice is a lot of the times what you'll find when you hook the scan tool up to it and you monitor data, you'll see them going up to 240, 250. The temperature will keep climbing. The problem is these thermostats here is what is the cause of this whole scenario. So these use a wax pellet inside there. Wax expands as it heats up, which causes this little piston here to lift, which pulls that sealing cup up to allow the coolant to flow. Now, these thermostats are designed in such a way where they maintain a temperature. They don't open and close and open and close and open and close. They open to a certain spot to allow the coolant to consistently flow so that the temperature maintains. Back in the day, that's how thermostats would work. They would open, you'd have this big gigantic radiator, and you'd get gallons of coolant circulating, and the engine would cool down, and you'd have this cycling effect. Well, people started complaining about that because, my car's getting hot and then it's cold and then it's hot and it's cold. So the manufacturers changed it to where they ran this way. So just laid on more heat than this thing should ever take in its entire life, and that piston hasn't moved at all. It's totally frozen solid. So in this scenario, these two failures were symptoms of this failure. So you really have to go out of your way to check this stuff. Now, that's the problem with the automotive industry as it sits now. As a technician, you probably get a hour diag for coolant loss, and you'll say, oh, it was this, and your advisor will say, oh, so it was just that, and then they'll pay you half hour instead of the hour. Then you'll get your half hour, maybe 3/10 for the coolant fill. So you're probably going to get paid, 1.2 hours for all this stuff. So as a flat rate tech, you're not going to want to spend the extra time to look into this stuff, which makes sense, right? Because you're already losing so much money on warranty stuff and service contract stuff that you're not going to want to go out of your way to lose more money. So the whole situation is designed to screw you, basically. The customer, the shop, the tech, everybody's out for their own profits, and the customer is the one that loses in the end, along with the technician, mostly because they're working for free. But anyway, long story short, so in this situation, this is, it actually looks like this one's already been replaced. That says Motorrad on it. So yeah, this is a situation where spending a little bit of extra time is going to cover your butt, and it's also going to save your customer money in the long run, which is going to increase, customer happiness, which is good because that means they'll come back instead of you letting the car go, blowing up, and then saying, oh, sorry, you need an engine now. You could have spent the extra time and done this. So as a technician, it's up to you to figure this stuff out on your own. And this increases your value as a technician because you have less comebacks. Less comebacks are better because it makes you look better on the spreadsheet. What your service manager looks like and goes, oh, should we give this guy a raise? Oh no, we'll just make him work more. Yeah, well, all rants aside, this is something that is easily mistaken, and you could easily just push this down the road, but you have to let them sit there and run. You have to monitor the temperature, and in situations like this, if you see this, you might as well just put this on there anyway, or price it out and make the customer decide, make it their decision. So these three things usually need to be all checked and replaced at the same time if they haven't been already.